A stranger in the wreckage, the sky over the quiet alien colony split open like paper. A burning trail of smoke cut through the clouds, and every creature below looked up. It wasn't a meteor. It wasn't local. It was something different. It was a crash. The object slammed into the forest outside the colony with a deafening boom. Trees bent. Dust filled the air. Alarms echoed across the town. Curious eyes stared toward the forest. The colony leader called for lockdown. "No one go near it," he warned. "It could be dangerous." But one small family didn't listen. They lived near the edge of the forest. The father looked at the sky, then at his child. "That was no rock," he said. Together, the family walked carefully toward the smoke. They passed broken trees and cracked ground. Finally, they saw it. A small escape pod, half buried in dirt, glowing with heat. It was marked with strange symbols they had only seen in history records. Earth symbols. The father's heart skipped. He remembered the stories. Long ago, humans traveled the stars. Fierce, brilliant, dangerous. But they had disappeared. Centuries ago. So why was there a human pod here now? The hatch hissed open. Inside, a body moved. A human. Injured. Blood on his face. Breathing slow, but alive. The father and mother stared at him. The child whispered, "Is he dangerous?" The father didn't answer. Instead, he reached in and pulled the man out. The human was heavy, cold, and unconscious. "What do we do?" the mother asked. "If we report this," the father said, "they'll take him, question him, maybe worse." "We can't hide him," she said. "We already are," he replied. They brought the human home, wrapped his wounds, gave him water. He didn't wake. They didn't know if he was a soldier, a traveler, or something worse. But they knew one thing. He needed help. And something inside them said, helping was the right thing. News of the crash spread fast. Colony. Patrols were sent to the forest. Drones scanned the area, but the family had already erased the tracks. At night, the mother sat by the human. She watched his chest rise and fall. The child touched his hand and said, "His skin is soft." The father kept the door locked and windows covered. Still, fear hung in the air like a heavy blanket. 3 days passed. The human finally woke. His eyes opened wide. He looked around. Panic flashed across his face. He sat up fast, but winced in pain. "Easy," the father said. "You're safe here." The human looked at them, confused, silent. Then he spoke in a rough voice. "Where am I?" "You crashed," the mother said gently. "We found you." The human blinked. "You helped me?" The child nodded. "You fell from the sky." The human leaned back. He didn't smile. He didn't speak again. But his eyes said everything. He had not expected kindness. Later that night, as the family slept, the human stood by the window. He pulled a small cracked device from his pocket. He stared at it. A red light blinked. The tracker was still working. Somewhere far in the dark of space, someone would see that signal. Far above, in deep space, a dormant satellite blinked awake. It had floated silently for hundreds of years, until now. A ping echoed from the tracker to the satellite. The satellite turned toward Earth. Then it sent the message. "Survivor detected. Human life form found. Coordinates locked." On Earth, deep inside a command station buried under ice and steel, alarms lit up. Officers sat up straight. Commanders rushed to the center console. A general stared at the screen. "Who helped him?" he asked. No one answered. He looked around. "Get me the fleet." Back on the alien colony, the family didn't know what was coming. They only knew they had helped a stranger in the wreckage. They didn't expect thanks. They didn't expect trouble. And they definitely didn't expect the sky to open again. But soon, it would. And this time it wouldn't be one pod. It would be a fleet. The first mistake. The human was awake now. but he never smiled. He sat near the window, silent, watching the sky. His wounds were healing fast, but something in his eyes stayed broken. The family gave him food, water, and space. Still, he said very little. But on the fifth night, everything changed. A loud knock shook the door. The father opened it slowly and froze. 2 colony patrol officers stood outside. "We're checking all homes," one said. "Looking for anything unusual after the crash?" The father kept calm. "We haven't seen anything." The officers looked past him. The child's toy was on the floor. A small piece of human metal sat beside it, part of the escape pod. One officer narrowed his eyes. "What's that?" he asked. The father moved fast. "Just scrap. My son collects junk." The officer bent down, picked it up, and turned it over in his hand. He didn't say anything. Then he handed it back. "Be careful with what you keep. Some junk is dangerous." They walked away. But as they left, one officer touched a device on his wrist and quietly marked the house. Inside, the human stood in the corner, breathing heavy. "You need to leave," the father said. "They're watching." But the human shook his head. "It's too late. They already know I'm here." He reached into his jacket and pulled out the tracker. It sent a signal the night I woke up. The mother stared. "To who?" The human looked up. "To my people." That night, the sky flickered again. Not fire, not smoke, a pulse. A wave of energy spread across the sky, silent but powerful. It came from deep space. The colony's towers lit up. Sirens howled. Defense systems activated. The government sent a message. Unidentified human signal detected. Suspected survivor is near. Anyone aiding him will face charges. Fear swept across the town. Whispers started in streets and homes. Someone helped a human. "They're going to bring war. We'll all suffer for one mistake." The next morning, the patrol returned, this time with more soldiers. They knocked again. Louder. Harder. The father didn't open the door. The human stood in the back room ready to fight, but the mother had another idea. She opened the door. Alone. "What do you want?" she asked. "Scan this area," the lead officer said. "There's an unusual heat source in your home." "Maybe it's our oven," she said calmly. "This heat reads as Terran." The officer stepped forward. Then he stopped. Behind her, the child walked out, rubbing his eyes, holding a warm food tray. "I made breakfast," the child said. The officer stared at him, then back at the mother. Something in her calm shook him. He stepped back. "Stay ready," he said. "We may return." They left. Inside, the human dropped to one knee. "You didn't have to protect me," he said. The father looked at him. "Yes, we did. Even if it risks your lives?" The father nodded. "Because that's what makes us different from those who would let you die." But the patrol wasn't done. They reported back to Central Command. The officer who visited the house was suspicious. "There's something wrong with that family," he said. "They're hiding something." "Send drones," the commander replied. "If we find the human, we make an example of them all." That night, the human stood outside the house, staring at the stars. The sky seemed calm, but something was coming. He knew it. He felt it. He turned to the family. "You saved my life," he said, "but your world is now marked." The child looked up at him. "Will they hurt us?" The human didn't answer. He just looked up again and whispered, "Only if my people get here too late." But somewhere far beyond that sky, ships had already started to move. Big ones. Fast ones. Human ships, and they weren't coming for war. They were coming for him. Echoes across the void far above the stars. Silence ended. The ancient Terran satellite, drifting for hundreds of years, blinked once, then twice, then fully activated. Its systems had been sleeping. Its weapons were cold. Its memory was old. But The signaling was fresh, one human trapped alive, and the message was clear. He was helped. Deep beneath Earth's surface, inside a forgotten command base, red lights flashed. The room woke up like a beast stirred from hibernation. Operators stared at screens, unsure what they were seeing. The general entered the control room. The moment he saw the message, he didn't ask questions. He simply said, "Launch the fleet." In the black cold of space, hundreds of ships powered up, silent, heavy, hidden behind moons and dust fields. Their armor was dark. Their engines roared without sound. These were not diplomatic ships, these were war-built, but their target wasn't for attack. Their target was the one colony that helped a human. Meanwhile, on the alien colony, fear was growing. More patrols arrived. Drones scanned the skies. The government told the people, "This human must be turned in. Any who protect him are traitors." The family knew time was running out. They had kept him hidden for days. Now their home was being watched. Soldiers patrolled the streets. The human looked out the window and said, "I need to leave. If they find me, here you'll all suffer." But the father shook his head. "You're not leaving alone. If they come for you, they come for us too." Far away in orbit, an early warning tower on the colony's moon picked up something strange. Unfamiliar energy signatures. Faint, but growing. An officer narrowed his eyes. "These aren't ours," he said. "Pirates?" someone asked. He shook his head slowly. "No, something older and faster." The station's scanners lit up. Hundreds of signals. Ships. Big ones. Then the data arrived. Origin, Earth faction, Terran fleet. Class, Retaliation Strike Group. The officer stood up. That colony is no longer alone. Back on the surface, the colony leaders received the warning. They went pale. One voice whispered, "This was never about one human. This was a message." The patrols outside the family's house stopped moving. The skies above the colony grew darker, not with clouds, but with shadows. Ships were arriving. Big, silent, slow, but filled with power. One after another, Terran vessels slipped through the atmosphere. They didn't fire. They didn't speak. They just hovered, watching. Inside the house, the human stood tall now. His wounds were nearly healed. His eyes, once tired, were now sharp. "They came," he whispered. The child looked up at him. "You said they might not." The human smiled. "They always come, not for revenge, for loyalty." Across the colony, thousands of eyes looked up. Some screamed, some ran. But the family stood still. The mother held her child. The father stepped outside, looking straight at the nearest warship. And in that moment, a voice rang out through every speaker, every screen, every comm tower. "We detected kindness, and we do not forget kindness. You helped one of ours, so we brought all of ours." The human placed a hand on the father's shoulder. "You thought saving one person wouldn't matter," he said. "But you changed the course of history." And, above them, the Terran fleet waited, silent giants above a small act of mercy. They hadn't come to destroy. They had come to stand beside those who chose right, when it was hardest to do so. Fear spreads like fire. The Terran fleet didn't speak again. It didn't need to. It simply hovered, casting long shadows over every city, mountain, and tower on the colony. Massive dark ships, silent, still, cold like statues carved from war. No weapons were fired, but the message was louder than thunder. Earth had returned, and it remembered everything. Panic exploded like wildfire. News channels shouted, "Human warships in orbit. Entire colony at risk." They're not attacking, but they could. Governments locked down. Military units were deployed. Soldiers lined the streets. Civilians whispered, "They're here for the human." No, they're here to punish us. We're going to be wiped out. Inside one government war room, a general slammed his fist on the table. "Why didn't we hand the human over?" he shouted. Another official replied, "We don't even know where he is." Someone whispered, "Yes, we do. One family took him in." Silence. The general growled, "Then they've brought war to us all." That same moment, the family sat quietly in their home. They could hear the distant hum of the warships, feel the weight in the air, see the sky dimmed by steel and shadow. But they were not afraid. They had made their choice. The father looked at the human. "This is because of us." The human shook his head. "No, it's because of me. You only did what was right. Now they must decide if they can do the same." Outside, an emergency alert lit every screen in the colony. Mandatory evacuation. For Zone 3, citizens must report to shelters. Do not engage human units. People ran. Children cried. Shuttles launched. Soldiers loaded weapons with shaking hands, but no attacks came. Not from the sky, not from the Terran fleet. The only thing that fell was silence. Then, something unexpected happened. A small Terran dropship landed in the center of the colony. Square, no guns, no armor, just a single glowing insignia in honor of kindness. The door opened, and out stepped a lone Terran officer, unarmed, calm, tall. His eyes scanned the crowd, but not with anger, with respect. Soldiers aimed rifles, civilians backed away. The officer spoke one sentence: "We are not here for war." Dark. Crowd froze. He looked up at the skies. "We are here to return a favor." The patrol officer who had first searched the family's house watched the broadcast in disbelief. He whispered, "They didn't come to punish us. They came to protect them." Up in orbit, the Terran fleet finally moved, not toward targets but outward, forming a wall around the colony. A shield, not a threat, a line no enemy could cross. In private, High Command asked the Terran leader, "Why bring so many ships for one man?" The reply was calm, firm. "Because one man was helped, and to us, that's everything." The people of the colony began to change. Fear faded. Some stepped outside. Some watched the ships. Some smiled. The ones they had feared were the ones now standing guard, and all because one family had shown mercy. The human looked at the father, mother, and child who had saved him. "Your kindness called an army," he said. The father replied, "We didn't do it to be saved. We did it because it was right." The human nodded slowly. That's why they came. But somewhere deep in space, others watched too, enemies of Earth, and they were not happy. They saw the Terran fleet and began preparing something far worse. Because when one planet stands, with humans it becomes something more than a target. It becomes a warning. The sky opens. The day began in silence. No sirens, no gunfire, no orders, just the soft hum of something massive above. The people of the colony stepped outside, slowly, carefully, and then they saw it. The sky was no longer blue. It was metal. The Terran fleet had fully arrived. Hundreds of ships filled the atmosphere. Massive carriers, sleek destroyers, long, silent cruisers built for deep space war. They didn't fire. They simply hovered. Close enough to darken the ground, close enough to remind everyone watching, Earth remembers its own. At the edge of the city, one soldier dropped his weapon. His hands shook. "We are not ready for this," he whispered. "No one is." Inside the colony's command center, leaders argued. "We have to beg for peace." "No, we need to show strength. They haven't attacked." "Not yet." Then came a signal. A message, broadcast not with sound, but with light, projected in the sky above the entire planet. It read, "One of ours was saved. One of yours chose mercy. Today, we stand here to return it." People stopped running. Soldiers lowered their guns. Children stared at the glowing words in the sky. And in that moment, the fear cracked. Not because the threat was gone, but because the truth was louder than fear. Then came the landings. Dropships touched down, not to fight, but to kneel. Humans in armored suits stepped out, each unarmed, each walking with open hands. They entered hospitals, markets, schools. One even walked into a bakery and asked to learn how to make local bread. Cameras rolled. The galaxy watched, and the message spread far and fast. They didn't invade. They protected. They didn't ask for payment. They brought supplies. They didn't come for revenge. They came for the ones who helped. The family, who saved the human, watched it all from their rooftop. The human, now standing tall beside them, placed his hand on the child's head. "I owe you my life," he said softly. But the father shook his head. "You don't owe us anything." The mother added, "You were alone, you were broken, so we helped." The human looked at the ships above. "And now my people are showing what that means." Meanwhile, across space, hidden in the dark, another empire watched. They had ruled systems with fire, crushed planets with fleets, taken slaves from weaker worlds, and they feared only one name: humanity. Now they saw the Terrans not destroying, but guarding, and that made them more dangerous than ever before. Their spies whispered, "They don't punish kindness. They reward it with protection. If you harm one of them, their response is not just war, it's all of them." Back on the colony, the sky began to clear. The ships rose slightly, still near, still watching. But now, as allies, not shadows. The Terran commander stood on a landing pad and spoke into every channel. "We do not seek war, but if one human is ever harmed for kindness again, then you will not see just fire. You will see Earth itself." The message ended, and the galaxy listened, not because of the threat, but because it wasn't a warning. It was a promise. The judgment of humanity. The next morning, the colony awoke to something no one expected. Silence. Not fear, not tension, just silence. And peace. The human fleet still filled the sky. The ships still watched. But they didn't strike. They didn't demand surrender. Instead, they waited. In the colony's capital hall, the leaders sat frozen. No orders, no plans. "What do they want?" someone asked. "They want justice," another whispered. "But they haven't attacked. They're waiting for us to choose." "Choose what?" "Who we are." Later that day, a smaller ship landed in the center of the city. Out stepped an older human in a dark coat. He carried no weapons, just a single recording device. He walked to the colony's main square and called for a public gathering. The people came, thousands of them, some with fear, some with curiosity. And then, the human pressed play. The screen above the square lit up. It showed everything. The escape pod crashing, the human found broken and bleeding, the family hiding him, healing him, protecting him, the patrol officer's visit, the child giving the human water, the moment the Terran signal was activated. No one had ever seen the footage, but now all eyes were on it, and at the end of the video, one message appeared. "They helped one of ours. They chose compassion over fear. What will you choose?" The human turned to the crowd. "Your government feared us," he said, "but one family did not." He pointed to the edge of the square where the family stood, quiet, unsure, surrounded by guards. They had no weapons, no training, just courage. The crowd stared at the family, and something began to shift. Not fear, but shame. One by one, people in the crowd stepped forward. An old merchant said, "I wanted to report them, but I didn't. I was afraid. I'm sorry." A teacher said, "They did what we all should have done." Even the patrol officer who searched their house stepped forward. His voice cracked as he said, "I followed orders, not my heart." The human nodded. "You are not judged by fear," he said. "You are judged by what you do with it." The colony's highest official stepped up to the microphone. With shaking hands, he said, "To the people of Earth, we are sorry. We feared you. We forgot kindness. But your ships reminded us." The Terran fleet, still hanging in orbit, opened a final signal. A deep voice echoed across the colony. You have chosen truth. You have remembered what matters. Judgment is past. Peace is accepted. Suddenly, the sky lit up, but not with weapons. With light. Thousands of Terran ships activated soft white panels along their hulls, forming a glowing shield above the colony, a final symbol of protection. And then, one by one, the ships began to rise, back into the sky, back into the stars. But the message remained. Earth had judged, and Earth had chosen mercy. As the last ship faded, the human who had crashed stood before the crowd. He looked to the family who saved him, then to the sky. Then he turned, placed one hand on his chest, and simply said, "Thank you, not just for saving me, honors, but for reminding us who we are." And the crowd, thousands strong, bowed, not in fear, but in respect. From one spark, a new future, the Terran fleet had gone. The skies were clear again. But the people of the colony were no longer the same. Something had changed, and it started with a single act. A family. Choosing to help a stranger. News of the event spread far, faster than any ship. Other colonies heard whispers of it. Galactic stations shared the video. Empires that once feared Earth now studied it carefully. Enemies who once laughed at humans now watched quietly. Because Earth had made one thing clear: if you help one of theirs, they send the stars to your door. The family that saved the human became a legend. They didn't want fame. They didn't ask for reward. But soon people knocked on their door, not to arrest them, but to thank them. Children brought flowers. Soldiers offered apologies. The colony rebuilt itself, not with stronger walls, but with stronger hearts. And the human? He didn't leave right away. He helped the colony plant trees, rebuild roads, and teach young ones about Earth, its storms, its deserts, its oceans. But most of all, its values. He told them, kindness is not weakness, mercy is not surrender, and loyalty is everything. Months later, a Terran diplomatic ship returned. No weapons, no war, just gifts, supplies, and a glowing emblem with a single message. Allies. Of Earth. The colony, once afraid, now stood proud. They had chosen right. And Earth had answered, not with punishment, but with partnership. Across the galaxy, change began to spread. Worlds that once feared war started choosing peace. Some even sent messages to Earth saying, "We helped one of yours too. Will you remember us?" And Earth did, because Earth always remembers. Back on the colony, the child stood with the human under the stars one last time. The sky was clear now. Quiet. The boy asked, "Will you come back?" The human smiled. "Maybe, but I won't be far." Then he boarded his ship. It rose into the night sky, vanishing like a spark in the dark. But the story didn't end there. It became something greater. A story passed from world to world, station to station, child to child. A story that began with one wounded human and a simple choice to help. Because in a galaxy full of empires and armies, one act of kindness lit the way for a new future, and the stars would never be the same again. The end.